Hi guys, I'm Shmee. Hello to you, welcome back to the channel and welcome to Jarama circuit near to Madrid in Spain, where today I'm here for that, a pre-drive in the incredibly hyped new Toyota Supra, the Mark V, codename A90. Let's take a look around it and take it for a drive today on track to see what it's like as one goes flying past us. I'm looking forward to the day that is ahead. This is going to be a busy day. There's an awful lot going on. He says just as a car comes flying down past us on the start straight. Basically, we'll get an opportunity to take a first look at the new car, to take in some of the details, to head out onto the track to go for a drive, and also for some fun later on, some hot laps, and I think a little bit more planned too. But what exactly is the Supra? Does it need an introduction? It's a project that was announced about 6 years ago or so now, that they would be introducing a new Mark V version of the model. Now, it's a project in partnership with BMW. The sister car is BMW's Z4 that also recently launched. That means a lot of sharing of parts, and we can talk about the pros and cons of that later on, but it's very much a sports car. So Toyota in 2016 formed Toyota Gazoo Racing. Gazoo Racing has been around for 15-20 years or so within Toyota almost, but it became officially part of that, and this is the brand under which the Supra model has now launched. Of course, these cars are heavily camouflaged, but we can get some hints as to its intent and what it's about from taking a quick look around it. It's a sports car. There's a very short wheelbase, a very wide track. It actually has, when you look at the numbers, a remarkable ratio in terms of those, very much pointed at being a car that is fun to drive, a car for the public road, for countryside spirited driving. And as we take a look around it, you can see some of the design and styling of it, although lots of it hidden away behind their interesting camo that they have. But even on a car that's going to come in around about £50,000 or so, that kind of bracket, you can see the styling that it has. Lots of openings at the front for cooling, the fins at the end of the front bumper, down at the side skirt also, some design cues and features as we've seen in the concepts and models that have been shown before. So they first showed the FT1 concept, and then more recently the Gazoo Racing race car version of the car. So you can see, for example, how those could become openings down there, that design that the door has. There's a spoiler built in the lip at the rear deck lid. Of course, it's a two-seater, rear-wheel drive, auto gearbox, BMW sourced engine, 3-litre inline 6 up front. But yeah, not too much is known yet. We don't know all the numbers and details, but I think we'll jump in, go for a first drive in the car, and then later on come back and explore a little bit more of it to tell you what I do know about the new Supra so far. Here we go then, a first drive in the new prototype A90 Supra. So let's start it up, button there on the dash, and the inline 6 comes into life. So we'll try both in normal and in sport. The inside of the car is very, very covered up, camouflage everywhere. But we've got the 8-speed automatic, so let's pull this into drive. Then it'll be time to head out onto the track. Okay, so first thing, seating position. Obviously we're sat quite far back. The car has a short wheelbase but a very wide track. It is sports car in every possible way. I'm going to experience this as we go on out and drive it around Jarama. It's a very tight, twisty, technical track. Lots to watch out for. We'll have cones to help and just guide a little bit. But to get a feel, a first experience in the prototype of this car. So we've got the green lights. So out we go, onto the circuit. Even in normal mode here, you get a good amount of sound coming out through the car. Holds onto the revs nicely, and over to the left. Bit of a sighting lap for me, just to get a feel for where the track goes, learn the undulations and what we're doing. It's very welcoming, it doesn't feel imposing or scary, and of course it's a car that's designed to be fun. The gearbox shifts quickly, cleanly. As we then come out towards the start straight, foot down, use all the revs up to about 6,500. Foot flat, picking up pace nicely, 180, 190. Just back it off gently towards the end of the straight for the first time. So we've got the 4-pot Brembo brakes. Just hold the braking down just to get a feel for those. Firm, assured as you'd like them to be. Into the very tight T1. Unwind the steering, back on the power. As you go early on the power out of the corners. Steering lock, don't have to feel like you're turning too far. Of course, being an automatic gearbox, sometimes you do have to wait a small moment for the shifts to happen when you're downshifting through the rev range. Lots of engine brake braking available to us though. It clings on around the corners and holds itself into place very, very nicely. It's that assured setup. Clearly they've done development work on the Nürburgring and other racetracks, but saying about 90% of the work has been done basically on the road to match in line with what customers will use the car for. But in any case, not a bad first drive, it has to be said. Flying down the straight again then. Get up to about 210 or so before the braking point in here. The brakes are really very, very solid. More power than I think I expected from it. We're talking about a fairly lightweight car. There's a lot of torque out in third gear as well, so you can keep the car in third, just feed back in the power. The power delivery itself is very nice too. Of course, this is a car that when you really do push it on, you do feel that it's more designed for road than, let's say, for the track. But it's quite a fun place to be when you are in this environment. Drop it down to second, turn it in. Small understeer tendency, but that's been calculated for and controlled with the setup of the suspension. Oh, into the red line, my fault. Control it through. It's welcoming and balanced. Maybe there could be a little bit more spark if I'm being critical with it. Perhaps it's very, very engineered, and I suppose one of the side effects of a car being very well engineered is that you do sometimes lose a touch of the character, but then you consider the price point, what you get for the money. It's actually really quite impressive. And now we'll take it easy as we bring it back round towards the pit lane. So I'm going to put it back into normal mode actually, take it out of sport, and I'll also put it back into drive now to let the automatic gearbox do its thing. The 8-speed ZF box. It's a box that's appeared in many cars now. Of course, it does the job very well. It's reliable, it's quick, it's efficient, it's quite lightweight, lighter weight than a double clutch gearbox, for example. But just gentle cruising around. Adaptive suspension in sport mode allows the car to lower 7mm, and obviously stiffens things up a little bit. The control will also change the response of the throttle, the steering feel, a number of traction related elements that you can imagine. A few things, nice to have that available in a car, you know, at this kind of level, but driving along like this, it's very quiet and comfortable, it has to be said. I know we're on brand new, perfectly smooth tarmac, but the difference between sport and normal is really quite dramatic. You have a gentle hum of the engine note, but it's nothing like as loud as it was when we were in sport mode. And back into the pit lane, car cooled back down, bring it back towards a gentle stop. So, quite an intriguing first drive. Let's hop on out and take some time to gather some thoughts on what this is like. Some quick thoughts post my track session. I'm going to be jumping into a passenger seat later on for some hot laps. We can just hear the car burbling away as it heads on off. Very quick turnaround, lots of people driving them. But it is really a car that is about the balance. You get those sports car characteristics, the low center of gravity, the 50-50 weight distribution. It's not intimidating, very welcoming to jump in and just enjoy it and enjoy the drive. Let's go for a walk around then and take in some of the details of the new Supra. Now the camouflage will be coming off in the next few months, and then we'll be able to get all of the information, but for now a few bits and pieces that I can tell you about. So Toyota have actually said that numbers are not important for our car. They're implying it's about the driving experience, but there are a few numbers that I can tell you about at this stage. So it has a 50-50 weight distribution, of course the perfect balance for a small sports car. They've also given it a very low center of gravity. In fact, it's even lower than the GT86. Now the GT86 had the boxer engine specifically for the purpose of keeping the center of gravity low, so that's quite an achievement. Another special achievement is that the new Supra is more rigid than the Lexus LFA, and the LFA is a proper supercar. So up front, of course, we have the engine. It's a BMW power plant, a 3-litre turbo inline 6, a single twin-scroll turbocharger. We don't have the final numbers, but expect it to be around 340 horsepower. It will have over 300 newton meters of torque, all of that power going through the 8-speed auto box to the rear axle. It also has BMW's active differential at the back, and expect it to do 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in around about just under 5 seconds. We'll get those final details, and also up to the top speed as well, which I guess will be about 170 miles per hour, just shy of, I think, 280 kilometers per hour. The car is fitted with adaptive suspension, so the ability to lower itself 7mm as and when required. It also has 19-inch forged wheels with Michelin Pilot Super Sport tyres and the 4-pot Brembo brakes painted in red that you have inside. Now if we study the bodywork in a little bit more detail, you can see around the front it has this pointed nose, reminiscent of the FT1 concept and some of the different versions we've seen along the way. The headlight design is quite intriguing. The way the running light along the bottom comes through towards that nose cone just above the openings down at the bottom for cooling coming in through the front, with quite an aggressive splitter for a car in this category. You can see there with the lights on at the front actually as that one just rolls on past us. If we continue round to the side, I quite like the 5 twin spoke wheel design, the dual tone paintwork, and again, like I said earlier, you have a lot of aero going on towards the bottom parts of the side skirts and also around towards the rear. You'll notice on the roof there's almost a double bubble style shape up there in front of the glass hatch towards the back, a strict two-seater. Now if we do come round towards the back, in the centre you have a motorsport style light right down there in the middle of the diffuser, quite an aggressive diffuser with these fins out towards the side, either side of the exhaust system. Now exhaust regulations are a big topic at the moment, cars basically being challenged to make any kind of exciting noise, so we've heard a bit of them today. Not the loudest car in the world, but quite a nice rasp and inline 6-cylinder sound to it. Now as we're here, I'm also spotting the shape of those tail lights, the way they protrude and stick out. You've got the Supra badging hidden away there at the moment, out of sight. And if you're wondering why we haven't yet seen too much of the interior, well, there's a reason for that. It is all completely covered up. There are carpets over all of the surfaces because this is being saved until the full and final reveal of the car, when we'll be able to take a full look at that. Back on the outside though, just one other thing I'd like to talk about. You will spot lots of vents and ducts in the bodywork, or at least things that look like opening vents. In fact, they're all closed up. So here on the front corners, for example, you've got those parts on the door, a couple of others around and about. Now I would love a version of this in the future where those aren't necessarily just cosmetic, where they have a function. Well, perhaps they are to do with the aerodynamics of the car, but at the moment all I know is what I'm looking at and what we can see. So exciting times with what they are doing with this car, but we will have to wait until they pull this camouflage off to see it in full detail. I'm helmeted up because it is time now for my hot lap. So I'm going to be jumping into a car and my driver will be Abby Eaton, test driver on the Grand Tour. So let's see what she can do at the wheel of this. Let's step in then, and Abby has been the fastest driver so far today. How you doing?
I'm alright, thanks.
Good, good. So, time to pull the door closed and experience how this drives.
Let's do it.
It's always fun to experience from the passenger side what I should have been doing. How much quicker I could have taken it. Oh, clinging on tight. Okay, you should see my face. I'm holding on tight here as we fly around the forces. It would be desperately unfair of me to turn this into a Q&A while racing, because you're trying to set a time here.
Intensify.
Onwards we go. The competition is definitely real here between the drivers. The data from the car as we go around is being fed back to base. Holding on tight.
Definitely my favourite corner on the track.
Yeah.
That is it, job done.
Well, it turns out this thing can stick quite nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does well, definitely.
That was a fair chunk more dramatic than I was driving.
I've been around it a few more times than you.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe a little bit more experience. Well, thank you very much.
That's alright, pleasure.
Straight from the hot laps then to jump into another car for a spot of drifting. Now the driver for this is going to be Frederick Usbo, one of the Toyota drivers and former Formula Drift champion. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. How's it going?
Oh man, this is awesome. This is a great day at the office.
That's for sure. How can you not have fun driving in this car? So, an experience for me, I think, coming up.
Yeah, we'll be drifting the brand new Supra A90, and this is like cherry popping as good as it gets, because you know, this is my first time drifting this car. It's actually my first time driving this car.
Really?
Yep. So I got to see it yesterday. Up until then, I didn't even know if it existed or not, but it's obviously here, and I'm absolutely 100% in love with the car.
Perfect. Well, Let's see what it can do.
So what we're gonna do right now is a little drift demo. We have all the traction controls turned off. We put the car in sport mode. I'm in manual mode for the transmission. Ready?
I'm ready.
Pretty cool, huh?
Around we go. With ease. This is the emotion.
Right?
This is
it.
the character the car had to chase.
The car kind of steers itself, a little blip on the throttle and it'll step out. Second gear, hazing the tires.
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah. So that's the Supra A90 drifting for you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you got it.
Back in the pit garages, we have a great lineup of cars to explore that tells us a little bit of Toyota's history and the story of the Supra and how we've arrived at the car that I've come to drive today. Now, back in the 60s, Toyota launched this, the 2000 GT. Now, they went on to build 350 of them, so it's a bit of a valuable, rare collector's item. But this was a departure from their norm to build a sports car back at that time. Now, the first Supra arrived based on this, the Celica A40. Now, this is not actually a Supra itself because in the European markets, they did not launch the Supra variant. The A50 was then a facelift of this car before we arrived at the A60. So this is the Toyota Celica Supra, as it was called. The Supra version basically had a longer bonnet to fit the larger engine that came with more power. It has the Celica Supra logo there on the bonnet. Then it spawned the A70. You can see the change, the sharper looks of the car, although we'll get to that one behind in a second. But again, more power, more drama, more of a sports car, more of those characteristics coming into it. Then this car, I think the one that most of you will be familiar with, the A80, with its 3-litre straight six, either available naturally aspirated or with the turbo, could do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.6 seconds. That was similar to, say, a Porsche 911 at the time from the Supra with its 326 horsepower, and they built these from the early 90s through to about 2002 in total, but it was made famous from Fast and the Furious, so I'm sure that this is the one that most of you know. Of course, they've then gone from quite a departure from this design and style to the new model now. Just to touch then on the future of the Supra from Toyota Gazoo Racing, TGR. Well, pre-orders for the car are going to start in October 2018. The first customer cars will then be delivered in July 2019. So that means somewhere in the interim period, the camouflage is going to be taken away and we'll get to see the final completed production vehicle along with the complete interior when those carpets are pulled back. In the meantime, from my experience today, my first drive, my pre-drive, to get to see what it's like out on track, it is very much this balanced sports car that they're aiming for. The way it matches on a very even level different characteristics. So the steering, the suspension, the chassis, the powertrain, the delivery, all comes together to be a great driving experience. Yes, it could be a touch more powerful, but we're expecting it to come in at around £50,000. We'll get confirmation of that when the car finally launches. I think in any case, it's going to be quite an interesting proposition. Another very interesting thing from TGR at the moment is a teaser they have dropped towards another car that they're developing. It's going to be something based off the back of their motorsports experience. And don't forget, they have a lot of experience in WRC, in the World Endurance Championship, and that's partly been involved in this car itself. But I believe something potentially called Super Sport is going to be coming down the line. So I will certainly be looking out to try and find more information about that when the time comes. For now though, a great day with the cars here at Jarama. A big thanks to the team for the opportunity to join them, and I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video to learn a little bit about this car before it finally arrives, especially given quite how much hype it has had over recent years. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching as always, guys, and I will see you again very soon. Cheers!